I rise to condemn Vice President Kamala Harris for her failed and dangerous policies as Joe Biden's border czar that caused the most catastrophic border crisis in modern history. This resolution condemns Kamala Harris's role as Joe Biden's open border czar and affirms that the American people deserve elected officials who understand the gravity of the crisis at the border and who will work to secure the border. Now, Democrats will try to run from this record, but they cannot hide. Joe Biden's open border czar, Kamala Harris, and every elected Democrat is responsible for this border crisis, along with every other aspect of Joe Biden's failed and feckless record, which brought not only the border crisis, but skyrocketing Biden inflation, surging violent crimes, chaos, and weakness around the world.
Here we go again. The Republican majority made their appropriations bills so extreme that they can't pass the vast majority of them with votes from their own party. So instead, we're going to come here to the floor and waste our time as they politicize the work that we are doing here in Congress and use this time to attack the vice president. And the only reason that Republicans are doing this today is to distract the American people from the fact that they still can't get anything done here on the House floor that will actually benefit the American people. It's no wonder the leader of their party has been convicted on 34 felony counts and has a Trump Project 2025 agenda that will take total control over people's lives. That agenda includes plans for mass deportations, including spouses and children of U.S. citizens, dreamers, essential workers, and farm workers. Let's not forget that roughly 22 million people in America live in mixed status families where at least one person is undocumented. So when Donald Trump and Republicans are talking about mass deportations, they're talking about tearing apart American families.
Mr. Speaker Pro Temp, Madam Clerk, colleagues, on behalf of the House Republican Conference, I rise today to nominate the gentleman from Ohio, Jim Jordan, as Speaker of the People's House. I am reminded of the Book of Esther. For such a time is this. Jim Jordan will be America's Speaker for such a time as this. Whether as Judiciary Chair, Conservative leader, or representative for his constituents in West Central Ohio, whether on the wrestling mat or in the committee room, Jim Jordan is strategic, scrappy, tough, and principled. He is a mentor, a worker, and above all, he is a fighter. And the American people know, we know, that Jim Jordan is a winner on behalf of the American people.
We are here because the House has been thrown into chaos. We are here because this hallowed chamber has been led to a breaking point by two dangerous forces, extremism and partisanship. This body is debating elevating a speaker nominee who has not passed a single bill in 16 years. These are not the actions of someone interested in governing or bettering the lives of everyday Americans. This is nothing less than the rejection of the oath that we swore to uphold as duly elected members of this body.
There is a reason that last week's hearing, the university presidents of Harvard, Penn, and MIT made history as the most watched congressional testimony in history with over 1 billion views. It was pathetic, amoral, and inhumane, and by God, the world heard it. And as I said in the hearing, it does not depend on the context. As attacks against Jewish students have skyrocketed on campuses across America, we clearly have tremendous work ahead of us, Mr. Speaker, to address this rot of anti-Semitism that is now rooted in our once premier higher education institutions. And we will not be deterred by this important work.
Now, I hold no brief for the college president's overly legalistic, ethically tone-deaf answers awkwardly advanced in response to Ms. Stefanik's rapid-fire yes-no questions. It should not be difficult for anybody to say that in the age of rampant gun violence and lax Republican gun laws, which have put tens of millions of AR-15s into circulation in our society, anyone calling for genocide of the Jews or anyone else should be sent immediately a campus security detail to see if they pose the risk of harm to other people or if they need an immediate mental health exam. And if there's not an imminent threat, surely the call for genocide of the Jews by definition constitutes a hostile learning environment and should occasion aggressive disciplinary action. So where was the common sense on the part of the college presidents? But where is the common sense in the Congress of the United States of America, calling for the resignation of private individuals at private universities would be a dramatic and unprecedented departure for the U.S. Congress, which has never before voted to tell a college president to resign. Before we affix this lifelong stigma, reproach, and dishonor on a private citizen, do you think perhaps we should offer them some kind of due process? The kind of due process that even George Santos got and that Donald Trump is getting all over America right now for his 91 federal and state felony charges? I rise to oppose this resolution, which to my knowledge would mark the first time in American history that the House of Representatives would vote to tell private college and university presidents to resign. I want all of my colleagues to think very seriously about what this means for us today and in the future. We're all profoundly disturbed by the resurgence of anti-Semitism and racism in campus towns, including death threats, serious death threats against Jewish students at Cornell, and actual shootings and attempted murder of 3 Palestinian American students in Burlington, Vermont. We all want to express our outrage in House resolutions, which we've done more than 20 times as a House of Representatives, and numerous times even since October 7th. For example, on November 2nd, we passed House Resolution 798, which condemned all forms of anti-Semitism on college campuses, denounced any support for terrorist groups on campus, reaffirmed the free speech rights of Jewish students and faculty, and urged enforcement of federal civil rights laws to protect Jewish students against anti-Semitism. So why do we need this resolution? Well, the only thing new about it is that it would have the U.S. House of Representatives call specifically for the resignation of 2 college presidents, a call that has been slipped in at the bottom of page 2 of the resolution. This extraordinary passage comes close to being what the Constitution calls a bill of attainder, which is the unconstitutional imposition by Congress on a specific citizen or citizens of a criminal punishment or stigma by the Congress itself. Although this resolution is not a criminal punishment or stigma against specific citizens, it is undoubtedly a civil punishment and stigma against specific American citizens. How many of you would like the president of the college where you went or where your children go to be walking around with a congressional resolution telling them to resign? Everyone knows that this will be an academic scarlet letter and a professional death sentence for anyone carrying it around. Does anyone think that UPenn's President Liz McGill, who's already resigned in the face of Ms. Stefanik's ceaseless campaign to force her out, will ever be able to find another college presidency? Give me a break. Should Harvard President Claudine Gay, who was the first Haitian American ever to serve in that position, and Sally Kornbluth, who is Jewish, get the chance to explain what they are actually doing to combat racism and anti-Semitism at their schools, and what they have done in their lives and in their careers to oppose anti-Semitism and racism, which are the gateway to destruction of liberal democracy? Do we care about that? Or is this just a bunch of drive-by talking points?
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are to blame for this historic crisis. Their policies stopped the construction of the border wall, ended President Trump's remain in Mexico, and released the largest number of illegals into the United States in history. Since Kamala Harris became the open border czar, monthly encounters have surpassed even the highest month under President Trump. Kamala Harris has failed in overseeing American safety by refusing to secure the border. She has proved that she is unfit to lead, and I strongly urge my colleagues to join me in supporting this resolution. Thank you. I yield back the balance of my time.
They can't pursue their impeachment claims, their fake impeachment claims of Joe Biden or any other number of people that they've targeted because Joe Biden is no longer running for president. So now they've got to quickly shift and instead use their time on this floor where we are supposed to be doing official business to attack Vice President Harris days after she is clearly going to be our Democratic nominee for president. Kamala Harris was never the border czar. She was never asked to address the situation at the border. She was asked to do something that MAGA extremists who want quick fixes that they can give to Fox News never want to focus on, and that is a real solution. She was narrowly tasked with developing agreements that could help bring government and private sector investments to those countries that are sending migrants to the United States so that those countries could help strengthen the conditions in those countries. And she did so, most significantly in Mexico, Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras. She brought billions from private sector investments to support government funding for entrepreneurs, to ensure labor rights, to strengthen food security, and launch projects across those countries that invested in financial inclusion, healthcare, climate finance, and affordable housing.